This is iFanboy Pick of the Week, number 785, brought to you by Mack Weldon. For 20% off your first order, visit mackweldon.com/iFanboy and enter promo code iFanboy. And iFanboy listeners, just like you, who are washing their hands, wearing their masks, where appropriate. It's less stringent now. Just be cool. Hello, welcome to iFanboy Pick of the Week, episode 785. I am Josh Flanagan. Please help. And this is my co-host, Connor Kilpatrick.
Hello. Oh, boy.
I'm Captain. We are iFanboy, and every week we read our stack of comics at gunpoint. And one of us picks the one they like best, and we call that the Pick of the Week. Please. We talk about that book. We talk about other books. We talk about the Patron Pick. We answer some listener mail if we have time. All right. Okay. I'm doing it. Sorry. Nothing's going on. I'm so happy.
There's a little private joke in the script for just us that Josh is laughing.
Listen, the point is that we have fun, and this is not coerced at all.
No.
It's not.
We are not doing this against our will.
This is purely...
Blink twice, Josh, if you're in trouble.
Yeah. But it's audio.
Oh, shit.
I've been blinking for 15 years. Here's your spoiler warning. There will be some. Connor, you had the pick.
I did. It was an interesting week. It wasn't a light week. It wasn't a heavy week. It wasn't like a great week. It wasn't a bad week. There was a lot of interesting things that happened in books this week. And ultimately, I had a really good time reading it and looking forward to talking about it because there was a lot to talk about. But for me, far and away, the pick, not even close. It was the last book I read. It was Fantastic Four 33, written by Dan Slott, art drawn by R.B. Silva and Luca Maresca, Jesus Bertolf on colors, and Joey Donuts Caramagna on letters.
No, you said it was the last book you read, and I know that you tend to read, you normally read in terms of anticipation coming last. So this was the book that you were also most excited about?
Obviously, things are changed now. I read
that's true.
DC on Tuesday, usually, and then Marvel on Wednesday, and then indie books. Depends on when things come out. In terms of Marvel books, this is my most anticipated Marvel book, so it ended up being the last book I read. I mean, we talk about this all the time. We love Fantastic Four. This is part 2 of The Bride of Doom, in which Doom is marrying his right-hand woman, Victorious, his sort of commander of the armed forces. And in the last issue, she and Johnny slept together, which blew up his relationship with that stupid alien, Sway. What is her name?
Doesn't matter.
That's been the worst.
Sky? I thought it was Sky.
Sky. That's been the worst storyline of this whole run. And
I don't hate it because there's this weird personal drama, and also he screwed it up in a way.
Oh no, this part fantastic. I like. I'm just saying the introduction of her was the worst storyline that we've had on Fantastic Four for me anyway. And so beyond terrific art from R.B. Silva and Luca Maresca, I thought this was structured like a farcical wedding comedy. Mm-hmm. And it just kept building and building and building until the moment where Namor laughs his head off during the ceremony. And
that is the best page by far that I saw this week. And the way, just I guess this is where your spoiler part is that they're about to do, she stopped the wedding and she says, I have been intimate with Johnny Storm. And then as you cut, and basically Namor had always said, I'm just here for the show. And so you cut to the next page, and at the top there's a 4-panel structure. The first one is Victorious, and she's ashamed, and then the officiator is shocked.
Who's already terrified that he's going to be killed for some
And Black Panther's eyes go wide, and then Namor has the largest head tilted back, open mouth laugh, but the ha ha ha, Joey Donuts really showing it here.
Great job, yeah.
Goes across all of those panels, and so we see the laughter, before we see who is laughing. And that 4 panels is magnificent.
And it's punctuated at the bottom with the Fantastic Four by Reed slapping Johnny in the back of the head.
That's awesome.
From far away. Now, that was the peak, the apex. But getting to that point, there's a lot of interesting things that go on here. So, Doom is preparing for his big state wedding. The Fantastic Four have been invited. They're not sure they want to go. Sue is the most against going.
I thought that was kind of odd at first.
I like it, though, because you would think it would be somebody else. And she's like, this is crazy. And Reed says, basically, if we go, the Latvian wedding tradition, which you can make up for anything.
There's a Deus Ex Machina, but great.
Is that Doom has to forgive all your past transgressions. So he's like, we can wipe the slate clean. All these years of conflict can be gone. And so that's the impetus for them to go.
Can't tell if that's better than the Sicilian wedding tradition.
So they go in the Fantastic car. Doom greets them with 2 tigers. One of the tigers is from Fantastic Four number 5, 1962, which is terrific. And then, Johnny has slept with Doom's fiance, and he might have feelings for her, so he tries to go see her, and that's a disaster.
And she might have feelings for him.
Yes,
that was
absolutely.
the other thing that was interesting.
Yes. And so he tries to go see her. He gets stopped by Doombots that she's controlling with this ridiculous helmet. Like, this is the book where you can really go ridiculous, and it doesn't hurt it at all. It doesn't.
You can go
silly.
science ridiculous. Yeah. You can go melodramatic. Doom meets them with 2 tigers. And
it all makes sense. So they end up having a conversation. And then there's a really great moment, I thought, where they deliver the rings, because Reed is the best man, and we're going to get to that in a second. They deliver the rings to Reed for him to hold. And Sue's like, should we bug them? This is a great opportunity. And Reed says, no, we have to go into this in the spirit in which we've been invited. And it turns out Doom has already bugged the rings to watch them. And so he sees that Reed is being honorable, so he decides he's going to be honorable. So he goes to his secret room of scientists, terminate all the projects and destroy the Fantastic Four. And they're like, what?
And there are a lot of projects.
Even the Armageddon? No, not that one. And then we cut to the next day where there's the Latvian state media is narrating the events, and that's when Black Panther and Namor show up, and Namor says basically, I'm just here for the inevitable destruction. And it keeps leading little moments. And then I thought, we get to the ceremony, and I thought it was really sad.
Yes.
Doom has no friends. Reed is the best man, Johnny is a groomsman, and Sue is a bridesmaid. There's no one else there. And so that's always been the thing with them, is that his mortal enemies are also his best friends. He's Valeria's uncle figure. And
he has no control over his temper / ego. Yeah.
And
because really theoretically, the wedding thing, all that stuff didn't happen until after she had basically used Johnny. Like, I need someone, you will do.
Yes.
And so there wasn't really treachery in that way. I mean, obviously, like, his ego wouldn't allow it. But it wasn't the same.
After they had sex, that's when he called her and said, hey, let's get married. And when Johnny's under the bed. Or he came over and said, let's get married.
Did you notice that Johnny has, during the ceremony, he has that soul band ring on his arm on the outside of his tuxedo jacket, which is a fashion no-no.
Faux pas.
Par excellence, yeah. That's
Put it under the jacket, at least.
Yeah, I didn't know that you could remove it so easily and then resize it to fit the outside. It's going to ruin the line of that jacket.
Ben is walking the bride down the aisle because the father's rotting in an unmarked grave somewhere.
And she's pleased with it.
I just thought it was really sad.
Yep.
No Red Skull, no Magneto. It's the Fantastic Four. This is his wedding party.
Was Namor ever in the Fantastic Four?
As a member, I don't. I mean,
because Black Panther was, because that's from whence came Bad Roommate Black Panther from long ago. Long-time listeners may remember.
That was X-Men.
No.
He was Storm's husband and hanging out with.
Oh, you're right. But he was in the Fantastic Four at some point.
All I know is when I was a kid, She-Hulk was there, and then briefly it was Wolverine and Spider-Man.
And there was
Ghost Rider.
The lady thing.
Oh yeah, and then Crystal was briefly in the Fantastic Four. I don't think Black Panther ever was though.
All right. Well, we talk, and then I'm going to look at that. You say more about.
Then, of course, the ceremony happens. As we said, she starts to feel guilty, and she stops the ceremony. And it's not to proclaim her love for Johnny. It's to say, if we're going to do this, I don't want any secrets, and I need to tell you that I slept with Johnny Storm. And that's when the mayhem ensues, as we expected it to happen. And then, it literally ends at a cliffhanger where all the Doombots are charging in to fight the Fantastic Four and Black Panther and Namor.
That last page is like classic Marvel Comics.
Mm-hmm.
Like the heroes are surrounded in the foreground. Doom is standing above them. All the robots are closing in. And then Victorious is like huddled sadly in the back. It was like real good.
It's like a Renaissance painting.
Yes, it is.
And Johnny's more concerned with Zora than he is with their safety. And this issue, from a construction story standpoint, was just terrific, I thought. It was this perfect little play that happened in this one issue.
And just the hubris of these people's failings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were talking about our next book, Explode, the Stan Lee book, but there's a bit in it where the Fantastic Four started. And I knew this, but I had just had it elucidated to me again, is that like they weren't great. They were jerks.
Yeah.
You know, and they couldn't get along, and
they hadn't figured out the model of superhero yet.
Yeah, and it's kind of great.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that that's here. And you know, like in the last couple of years, you've had good Fantastic Four books for the first time in a while. And a lot of that has been predicated on the fact that like they make shitty choices. It's not just Reed who makes shitty choices.
Right.
It's all of them in their own different ways. There was that great single issue by Christopher Cantwell where, you know, he ruins their vacation,
mm-hmm.
and, you know, Johnny is screwing up. There's even a little bit where Sue says, hey, you know, let's bug the Ring. But I thought, oh yeah, she's like a super spy.
Right.
You know, at the same time. So like that's that coming in, and I don't mind it because it works.
I thought this was great. I really did. And you could read this and not having read any other issues of it. It's like we've talked about this. Like when we were kids, you would just get some comics. Yeah.
For like comics would just show up sometimes.
Right.
And you'd read them and you hadn't read the ones before. You'd just go, oh, okay, and you'd put them in the best order you could, and you were probably missing an issue here or there.
Yeah.
And you just read them. You're right. That is what this is like.
It gives you enough of the backstory between Johnny and Victoria. It's like you get all the information you need to have the big climax. This makes sense.
It was like the days you could tune into a network drama,
mm-hmm.
and even if there was an ongoing storyline, you could watch an episode of it.
Sure.
Yeah. But with a cliffhanger. There's always a cliffhanger. I guess that's different.
It wasn't even a question. Like there were other books I really liked this week, and there was a book I had in mind for Pick of the Week up until I read this, and then I read this shit, and I was like, yep, that's it. It was just by the time you got to the end of that issue, I was just like, that was I'm not going to say it was a perfect comic, but it was an incredible comic experience from an enjoyment standpoint, from an appreciation of the craft standpoint.
Yeah. It was like a good piece of pie at a diner.
Right. Exactly. The burger was great, but the pie made the meal.
Yeah. Would you like to know some of the members of the Fantastic Four?
Sure.
Okay. Crystal, you called that one.
Yep.
Medusa.
Right.
Luke Cage in issue 168. Nova, not Rich Rider, but the Herald of Galactus Nova, who was like a female Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
She-Hulk.
Yes.
Ms. Marvel, Carol Danvers. Actually, nope. Sharon Ventura, not Carol Danvers.
Oh.
Ant-Man at one point. Looks like a Byrne era. Namorita.
Oh, yes, Namorita.
And yes, Black Panther and Storm. I still think that is from, it's during the Civil War event. They were in the Fantastic Four. I still think that this is from the Fantastic Four.
Maybe. That could be, you could be right. You could be right.
Valeria and Franklin. Somebody named Flux. One month. Okay.
He's a capacitor.
Doom when he had the white outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Thing.
Oh, Miss Thing, yes.
Yes. She had no power, but she was given one of Ben Grimm's Thing suits, which he had previously used when he was depowered.
Yeah, yes.
Future Foundation. Yeah, there you go. So it was Black Panther and Storm.
Cool. All right. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, #1, big release this week. This is Tom King's latest book. Bill Quee Evely is the artist. Mateus Lopez, or Lopez.
Bill Quee, I'm not going to draw this anymore.
And Clayton Cowles. It's interesting because Tom King seems to have two different things he does. He seems to have the prestige 12-issue, like, reinvention deep dive, and then he has, like, the shorter thing like Superman Up in the Sky, which is not so much about that. It's more of just an adventure story that tells a lot about the character. But I wouldn't put Superman Up in the Sky as the same kind of story as like a Mr. Miracle. And so this is the shorter. This is 8 issues instead of 12, and it seems like it's more of the latter. But obviously we don't know yet. We're only 1 issue in. But I was very excited for this. I think Bill Quee is terrific. She did a couple issues of Detective Comics. She did.
Is it a she?
Yes. She did a couple issues of Detective Comics. She did a couple of the Vertigo Dreaming books. She did a Batman Black and White story. I think she's a terrific artist. Very European style.
Yeah.
And you and I discussed this briefly before the show. Not what we were expecting when we finished this. First
of all, I was like, oh, Supergirl book. It's #1. Let me look. And I was like, Tom King. And then I vaguely remembered they had announced a while ago. And I said, oh, okay. I was probably going to read it anyway because it was a #1. And then I got started and I was a good ways into this, and I was like, what the hell is this? Because it's sword and sorcery. It's Conan.
Well, it is sword and sorcery. However, it's also like textbook Western.
True.
Like,
yeah, you're right.
House on the Homestead, the dad gets killed. The daughter goes into town to hire the meanest gun to get
yeah,
revenge.
at one point, you're right, because at one point I go, oh, this is True Grit.
It's True Grit. And then that doesn't work out, so then she hires the drunk in the bar. The drunk at the bar happens to be Supergirl. She's Rooster Cogburn. Supergirl is there because it's her 21st birthday, so she found a planet with a red sun so she could get drunk. And so she's the drunk at the bar.
Connor, do you respect that move?
I respect it. Seems dangerous.
No, none of that.
Seems reckless. And she's alone.
Like, oh, she's depressed.
And then they go off, together, the two women, to get revenge for the killing of the father. And Supergirl's like, I'm not going to kill him, but I'll help you, bring justice. And then that gets questioned. And there's a big fight. I mean, this seemed to be like it's a Western wrapped in fantasy cloth.
That's a superhero story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot. I think once I sussed out what was going on, like where I was standing, I really enjoyed it.
Yes.
And it wasn't because it wasn't that maxi series thing. I didn't get to the end of it with a like, I don't know what the fuck this is. I guess I'll find out in a year.
Right.
I didn't have that. It was pretty straightforward, let's do this. Okay. And then things go wrong and then cliffhanger. It was, pretty classically one issue of a comic book. Good first issue.
Yeah, and because it's a red sun, there's some real danger, at the end of this, at the end of this issue, Supergirl's got several arrows in her, and so does Crypto, by the way, which I assume was traumatic for many people.
That is an interesting question because she can't be completely depowered because the arrows did not seem to affect her as much as it would anyone else.
Right.
That's the one thing I thought. I was like, is it an orangish sun?
Maybe she's just real tough.
I guess. No one's that tough.
Right in the heart. The first one.
Yeah, no, there's 3 arrows. One of them's like in her abdomen. And I know that hurts.
Right.
Like the others don't.
Well, I thought, okay, they'll just put her in the ship and they'll fly out of the...
Yeah.
Nope, the ship gets stolen.
Yeah,
so,
I thought that's the same thought. Maybe there's something in the ship. Maybe.
So it was unexpected. I liked it. I certainly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that was more interesting than I was expecting. I actually didn't know what I was expecting. I just wasn't expecting this. That's fun. I think that's fun.
It's interesting because Tom King was doing his weird miniseries off to the side that were very good and thoughtful. And then they put him on Batman. Mm-hmm. And so that's usually the point where someone goes mainstream, and does the thing. And he did it for a long time. And the more regular comic that he tried to make it, the worse it was.
Yeah.
And the more that he was allowed to, do his thing, the better it was, but ultimately led to it not finishing.
Right.
And then being moved over to this other book that is very slow coming out.
Turns out that's not what most people want from Batman, which I understand.
And so then he's like, all right, I'm going to make a career doing these maxi series with my, very capable partners, and we are a team. And that's great, and those books sell forever in trade form, and it's a good career. And this is the first time I think in a while that, I was just do some comics, and it sort of lives in between those two phases. It's just interesting if I think about it in terms of building a career in comics. And there's more than one way to go, but I was going to say too often, but very often the person will tamp down their more artistic impulses when they get to the mainstream books that they're on and can make a living. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of people like that. And they do it okay, but eventually they can't. Remender's, the worst stuff he ever did was the straightforward, and I'm not saying it was bad, but you're on this book, you have to write Secret Avengers or whatever. And he's like, all right, and Tom seems to have understood, or somebody else did and helped him understood, let's do these things. And it's working for him, which I'm glad.
When I first recognized the fact this wasn't going to be one of his prestige books I don't believe there's a 9-panel grid in sight in this comic.
Yeah, you're right.
Because he's fallen into that for his prestige books. Not in a bad way, that's just the way he's been telling them. And here this is very classically laid out. Big action panels, splash pages, which are almost dead in the modern comic. 8-9 panel pages. It's a very different kind of... if you take Tom King's name off of it, I think a lot of people wouldn't know this was Tom King.
Yeah, you're right. It was really good and enjoyable, but it wasn't amazing. It was good. It was real good. And
I think that's how we felt about Superman Up in the Air originally.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was like, that was good. And then by the end, we were like, that was amazing. which is sort of how Tom.
Well, that was also
goes.
almost an anthology format, but with a through line.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
So I'm looking forward to the rest of this.
Me too.
And I think Bill Cui is incredible.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. The coloring is also really great by, I guess, Mateus Lopez. Perfect coloring.
So the Flash 71, I think, was Picklick for a while. Jeremy Adams with a whole bunch of artists. As you know, Wally continues bouncing around the Speed Force, entering the bodies of other speedsters. In this issue, he starts off in the body of the Reverse Flash, and they realize that he is not just bouncing around time, but bouncing around the multiverse. So he's in the Reverse Flash's body, basically inside the Super Friends cartoon. And that part's drawn by Kevin McGuire. And I realized in this issue that basically they're doing Quantum Leap. And I feel like an idiot for not realizing it, because at one point they have their little team back in the present, and they're like, he may never come home. He's stuck in the Speed Force. He'll just keep bouncing around forever. And I was like, oh, it's exactly Quantum Leap.
That is classic comic book, is to take a thing that exists and put their stuff into it. It's also classic Simpsons.
Yeah,
It's funny because you don't hear that in a comic book term and say, oh, that's lame. You go, oh, that's how you're supposed to do it, because that's how Jack did it.
Exactly. So the part in the Super Friends was really funny because I guess when he jumped into Reverse Flash, it was when they were considering him for membership in Legion of Doom. And somehow they'd captured Superman. And the lightning bolt that happened when he jumped into the body ends up frying Superman. And they think, well, he just killed Superman, so we got to let him in. But Lex Luthor's really pissed for various reasons and doesn't want to let him in. So there's that part, just a whole argument about whether or not to let him into the Legion. And then he ends up jumping around a bunch of people very quickly. And that's why you have all these artists. You have like a bunch of one-pagers. So like Scott Collins doing Max Mercury, and Brian Hitch doing the Justice Society of America again, and Dan Panosian doing some version of the Flash. It's either Barry or Wally early on. And so you get this sense of him just continually bouncing around and not knowing what's going on and being very disoriented until finally he ends up in the future in his own body. He's having lunch with his daughter, who's all grown up, and so he gets to freak out. She knows what's going on because it's the future, so he gets to finally come clean about where he is, and they have a very emotional conversation. And the only thing that really held us back was the final jump. He jumped into his own body in Heroes in Crisis, and I was like, oh, just let it go. We've all kind of agreed that was a mistake, but now we're back. I've really enjoyed this story. It's been a fun overview of the Flash world and Flash characters.
Is it a good companion, or I guess next step to the sort of very classic Josh Williamson run?
I guess. I mean, I think the indications are that this is setting up Wally is to return as the main Flash. So in this sense, we're sort of getting an overview of his life and friends and things. Mm-hmm. It's hard to say any more about what's happening with DC.
What would you like to happen? Like, would you like Wally to be the Flash?
I mean, I'm a Barry guy at heart, but yeah. I also read Wally for 15 years. I like Wally as the Flash. Given my choices, I'd have Barry, but
what do you do with Barry? Like, what I don't like, and I never really have, is that there's two Flashes.
Yes.
And they're both named Flash, but they have different, and one is always subordinate. Like, I think it works best if there is one Flash around. Even if Barry's not dead, but he's like, I'm not flashing anymore.
Well, there was the one special, at the turn of the year with the non-Infinite Frontier stuff or whatever it was called, where Barry was being set up as some sort of multiverse Flash. Like, you're going to be in this multiverse commission, and you're going to make sure the multiverse is healthy. And then Wally was going to be the one on Earth, being the everyday superhero. I don't know if that's still a thing. Yeah, like I said, it's hard to know what DC is doing one minute to the next.
I bet there are people who work there who think the same thing.
Right. When this storyline started, it started with Wally retiring, saying, I'm not being Flash anymore. Let's use this experiment to take away my powers. And instead of taking away his powers, it shot him into the Speed Force and did this to him. So my assumption is this ends with him as the Flash, but I don't know what that means for Barry. It's still Barry in other books. It's still Barry in Justice League. It's still Barry in team books and other events. I just don't know what the hell DC's doing. Well, I guess we'll see. Did you read Jupiter's Legacy Requiem?
I did not know it was a thing. I saw you put it on the list last night, and I thought I should read it. And I went to go get the issue, and I saw it was like $6, and I went, I kind of don't care.
It's like 50-something pages and $6.
Yeah, it was also about 11:30 at night. But my real thing was I don't really care. And I wasn't very excited about Tommy Lee Edwards. And I thought, well, you'll tell me if it's any good.
Well, the interesting thing is that we loved the first two miniseries.
Yes.
Loved them. The first one drawn by Frank Whiteley, and it was about, from Mark Miller's, take on superheroes, and then they did the flashback miniseries that was it Wilfredo Torres that drew it?
Yep, Wilfredo Torres.
That was all about like the 50s and Hollywood, and it was terrific. Those 2 books.
I don't remember it ending particularly, or at least in a memorable way. I think I just thought I enjoyed that then.
At the time, they were always heading toward a 3rd and final miniseries, which I guess this is. But you saying I don't remember is very important here because I don't remember what happened, and they don't really do any work here to help you remember.
And I was concerned about that. There was another book like that this week too. You keep talking, and I will.
So this issue takes place in the future. Mm-hmm. The characters that were in the original miniseries have had kids, and they're like I was really confused for a long period of time.
Did it come together for you though?
It was okay. I certainly didn't love it as much as it was. I don't know if it's because I don't remember or not. And then the other thing is, I like Tom Lee Edwards, but I don't know. I assume he has gone digital, and the switch to digital. And I could be totally wrong here. I may be totally. I'm just assuming here, just from looking at the art. The switch to digital hasn't helped people of his style, like Raphael Albuquerque.
Yeah,
They were very hard-edged. All the ink's on the page. You can see the rough lines. And digital sort of smoothed their art out. And to me, it has made it less vital. And so it's gotten kind of dull. Like, I don't even like Raphael Albuquerque anymore. And I used to be one of my favorite artists. And here, I was like, oh, I like Tommy Edwards. Just very shadow-heavy, very Jean-Paul Leon-like.
Yeah, no, that's what I think of. Is he did one of the Earth X?
Yeah.
Did he follow Jean-Paul Leon?
That's all gone, and then he's coloring himself, and I don't think the colors are doing any favor. The thing that is worth mentioning is that there is some Jean-Paul Leon art in here, and he obviously recently passed away, and so he did some flashback pages. And so it was fine. I liked reading it, but at the end of the day, it lost a lot of its power because characters showed up, and I was like, wait, who is that one again? How does he relate? Like, it just was, it's been so long. It's been so long since those books came out. Now, it also should be mentioned that this book was meant to coast off of the Jupiter's Legacy TV series on Netflix, which was recently canceled.
Very quickly and unceremoniously.
This book should have come out like a month ago, like when the show launched. Especially for streaming, shows don't really stick around. But it's just bad optics to come out when the show is canceled, especially when the essay in the back is Mark Miller crowing about Jupiter's Legacy being the #1 show in the world on Netflix right now. And I was like, oof.
Did you see any of the show?
No, I didn't watch it. It looked bad.
I didn't even get that far. I heard nothing but like.
No, I didn't watch it. I just like, no, this doesn't look good.
Yeah, I didn't even get that far. I just heard enough people say that I was like,
right. And then I thought, okay, well, if I hear this is terrific, I'll obviously watch it. But then everyone was like, yeah, this is not good.
Yeah. Do you think that colored?
No, it didn't color my opinion of it at all. I really just couldn't remember what the hell had happened and who everybody was.
I think it colored my anticipation for a thing. If this had nothing to do with around the time that a show was coming out that apparently was a bad adaptation of something that had been very good, I think that would make me less excited for it.
Mm. Yeah, it didn't bother me. I was like, oh, now we're time jumping, and who is this person, and who's that mom, and I was like, I don't remember anything about, give me a catch up here, like a one pager or something. And people will say, well, go back and read it. I don't even know where those issues are.
It was Stillwater this week that came out, and I was like, I don't remember who these people are or what. I don't know if
because we went backwards in time. That's why.
Yeah, and I figured that out pretty quick. I was like, okay, but then I didn't remember who the people were in.
Oh yeah, no, I had the same problem. I was like, wait, that didn't come to me till like the second to last page. So.
Yeah. So that was that same feeling though, and that wasn't even that long ago. Jupiter's Legacy was years ago. Yeah. And it was pretty intricate, if I recall.
It was. We even had trouble back then, but we did love it. I mean, legitimately love that book.
Well, 2 different artists in 2 different time frames, with 30 or 40 years in between them. That's tough.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about Mack Weldon. It's been a little while. I think we've done that. Mm-hmm. We know right now it's about summertime. Summertime's coming.
Yes, it is.
Or if not here, I never know exactly what the summer date is.
It's here early in terms of heat, that's for sure.
It's about doing things out there in the world when it is warmer than it used to be. And let's say that you have sensitive skin, you're going to be worried about what you want to be concerned about the things that you're wearing taking care of you in those circumstances. Mm-hmm. But that's why Mack Weldon is fantastic. And it's why I don't like heat. I don't like the summer. Not into it. But I know that certain parts of myself are going to be in good stead because of the Mack Weldon stuff I have. They had new essentials that came out during the spring. They have body mapping technology and fabric mesh zones. These stealth boxer briefs deliver enhanced breathability and support, perfect for everyday wear or to be layered under workout gear. And, if I might say so, I've tested this exact product under all of these conditions.
You're an unofficial product tester for them.
I am. I have the stealth boxer briefs. I have a set of those. I've been going to the gym for the first time since before there was smartphones, at least that long.
Oh.
Yeah, no. And so I've gone 3 times a week for about 6 weeks now, 5 weeks, whatever. The stealth boxer briefs are among my favorite thing to wear there. I also like the air knit for that because they keep you cool.
Sure.
They're really nice. They have like a bit of compression to them, which is really good when you're doing those things and you have old man legs and they hurt. They're awesome. And you can wear them. Actually, one of the things it says you could wear them under a swimsuit. I've done that too. And they're pretty great for that. If you have a swimsuit that happens to be a little thin, that's what I'm saying, and doesn't have the integrated. Anyway, if you're the lounging part, cooler in the night, there's the Ace sweatpant or shorts. Yep. You can deal with those. We're both big fans of those. There are men's essentials. It's your one-stop shop for socks, shirts, hoodies, underwear, polos, active shorts. There's a great comfort on all of them and a consistent fit. So if you're a medium or large in one thing, then you will be in the other thing too, which is a concern. Certainly if you're buying from the web.
Yep.
They look great. They feel great. They're good for all sorts of things. Working out, going on a date. And I like to say that previously we had said that line with a bit of a wink. Oh, yeah. A date. Go out, please. That could be a real thing now.
Yes. Now you get back on it. You got to get back out there. You got to get your clothes to make you feel good when you're on your date. You got, even if you're not expecting anybody to see your underwear, if you have some nice underwear on, it can make you feel more confident.
Oh, I do that all the time. Mm-hmm. Today I got to do a thing. I was like, well, where's my best pair of underwear? Where are the socks I really love?
Right.
And that stuff is invariably my Mack Weldon stuff.
Right.
There is a wide range of customized fabrics. We're just talking about that. There's several types of underwear, for example, and different types of shirts and things like that for the things I love. It's one of my favorite things is specialized clothing. That is that's great for an activity. I'm a big fan of that. Some people always dress in workout wear, for example, where I live, and probably in other places in all of Queens. And I don't, but I do like it for when I do the thing. There is Weldon Blue, their totally free loyalty program. Level 1 gets you free shipping for life. Once you reach level 2 by spending $200, you get 20% off every order for the next year. They want you to be comfortable. They guarantee it. So if you do not like your first pair of underwear, you can keep them. They will still refund you. No questions asked. For 20% off your first order, visit MackWeldon.com/iFanboy. Enter promo code iFanboy. Again, MackWeldon.com/iFanboy. Promo code iFanboy. 20% off your first order. They are reinventing men's basics, and thank goodness for it. Thank you, Mack Weldon.
Neil Gaiman's Norse Mythology, Volume 2, number 1. So we've got a new number 1.
I don't think I had realized that it was Volume 2, number 1. I just thought, hey, another issue of this. Does Neil Gaiman have anything to do with it anymore?
Yeah, it's the same exact setup as before.
Well, because at a certain point, I think Rousseau just did the writing.
No, this is all based on the book he wrote.
Well, okay. He
wrote the Norse Mythology book, and this is based on that.
Got it. You're right.
This was great. And the thing is, I finished it, and I was like, that was great again. And I realized, well, yeah, because these are fucking great mythology stories. There's a reason why they've survived for thousands of years. This was another really good story.
It's interesting that, Norse mythology seems to be having a little moment.
Sure. Well, because of Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, there's that. But then, there was, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I was playing for what seemed like 1,000 years, which is a lot of these things. And then there's this book, and it's all sort of related. But, yes, it's Chris Hemsworth, but it also is just to do with, they like Norse mythologies. They were like, let's do Thor as a superhero, And this is just one of those moments. It's having that, and it's fun. Norse mythology seems to have the most fun stories.
There's obviously lots of death and destruction, and people's lives are ruined, but also they have a lot of drinking and sex. It's like the whole Wonder Woman storyline recently. She had a great time hanging out with the Norse gods because they are less angsty than the Greek gods.
Yeah. There's kind of humor. Mm-hmm. It's like the Grant Morrison of mythologies.
Right.
Greek and Roman, the Roman stuff is very dour.
Right.
The Greek stuff is all kind of like, so you slept with your mom? It's not, the Norse stuff is like, oh man, we went out there, we killed, some weird shit happened, but it's cool. There were some dwarves.
So the god Kvasir, who is, is the god of truth.
I'm sorry, did you say Kvathier? Is that what you said?
Yeah, he might as well be.
Yeah, that's right.
He could answer all questions. And he decides
let me write that down.
He decides to go out into the world across the Rainbow Bridge, and Odin's not sure that's a great idea. And it's not, because he goes to Midgard and is immediately murdered for his blood, so that, too, I guess they're dwarves, can make mead out of his blood and anyone who drinks it gets the gift of poetry. And so they decide to keep it for themselves. And that leads to a whole escalating problems and dead giants and more dead giants. And then giants getting revenge and crows. And then Odin shows up and Odin very cleverly kills a bunch of giants. I just thought this was terrific. And the art from Matt Horak on P. Craig Russell's layouts was really appropriate to the story type. It's clean, it's classic, doesn't do anything it doesn't need to do. It tells a story and gets the job done. And Odin has a magic whetstone that can sharpen your blade super strong. Just don't stand too close to each other when you've done that.
It was awesome. Yeah. That what happened with him and I guess they were slaves, but they were big old giant slaves, and he tricked them.
I thought it was fun, really fun.
It was really fun to read.
Yeah.
Totally was.
Yeah.
Did you read Compass #1?
No, I saw in the book, I looked at it and said, Greg Rucka presents. I was like, ooh, Greg Rucka sci-fi story. And I saw it wasn't actually Greg Rucka, and I said, I have too many other books this week.
I will say that I saw that he didn't write it, but I saw that his name was on it, and that was interesting enough for me to do that. And it wasn't sci-fi. That was not the deal. It's the Mongols in the 1200s, ransacked everything, almost getting into Europe. Mm-hmm. When they were in the Middle East, I've read this history to a certain extent, but I forget most of the specific details of it. In the Middle East, they came upon this. It's the House of something. There was a very, very advanced academic society.
Was there a spaceship?
No.
I thought I saw a spaceship.
No. And storehouse of knowledge, and it was very advanced. There were women there, and the Mongols show up and they destroy everything. And it basically ends this sort of timeline in history.
Right.
And this story is about a girl who escapes from there and makes her way up to England and finds her way to a monastery in Wales, mm-hmm. where she meets up with some folks. I don't even remember exactly the details, but that's the setup. I didn't understand it for a little bit, but basically it's the coming together of these cultures. Mm-hmm. Islam, or they call them Mohammedans in here, which was a thing they'd use, mm-hmm. And British, middle-aged
Christianity,
church and power, and Mongols.
Right.
And as far as I can tell, there's not a sci-fi element. It's just a historical. I mean, it's not real history. Mm-hmm, Parts of it are
historical fiction.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to make of it yet, but by the end, I really enjoyed it because there were no zombies or spaceships. Mm-hmm. I was like, all right. And Rucka tells this story. He's like, I met these guys on the internet. They're Australian. We had drinks one time. They had all these ideas. Some of them were bad, but I really like this one. So I helped put it together. And Justin Greenwood is the artist. He did the last bit of Stumptown, and then he got his regular sort of crew and workers to help work on this thing. And I think he edits it or whatever, but it was fun. It was good. It was, there was not a sci-fi twist. Mm-hmm. The history behind it is really interesting.
So let's jump into Hellfire Gala Corner, and we're almost to the end, and I was wrong. They are doing this whole situation at the party, so we're still at the party, just through various points of view.
That's what all parties feel like to me.
Various points of view. So, time keeps, doubling back on itself. So there were 3 issues this week. New Mutants 19 from Vita Ayala and Alex Linz. And that one was not interesting to me. It was kind of like last week's. I don't remember which one, but I don't follow the book. I don't really know the characters. I didn't really care about the relationships. So that one I just was fine, but didn't really care. X-Corp #2 from Teenie Howard and Alberto Facci. It took me half the issue till I remembered I'd read X-Corp #1. I totally forgot I'd read X-Corp #1. And I was like, oh, this seems really familiar. And then I was like, oh, right, I read Ed #1. So it was slightly more interesting because I knew what was going on. It's about the business at the heart of the X-Men's culture that they're creating. So there's a lot of business meetings in this one. And I'm not kidding. And then finally, Planet Size X-Men #1, which was the main draw, Gary Duggan and Pepe Larraz, who are the creative team on the new X-Men book. This was bonkers, and about halfway through I thought it could be a pick of the week, and then it went in a direction I don't care about. But the first half of the book is the X-Men using their various powers to terraform Mars. Gets a bunch of iron from space, and it creates a molten iron core, and there's a mutant who has entire ocean ecosystems in his blood, and so they spill his blood. He creates oceans, and Iceman creates polar ice caps, and there's another mutant who can turn the land into tillable soils. So they're basically recreating Earth on Mars, and I thought, that's cool. There was a lot of hard science, and Gary Duggan, keeps the humor in it, keeps it light, and then I thought, wow, they're going to go from Krakoa to they're just going to make their own planet. That's interesting. And then I realized it was not for them. It was for these Araco aliens from the spacey bits that we really just did not like in House of X, 10 of Swords, or whatever that was. So once that happened, I was like, never mind. Now, for the first half, I was like, this is cool. This is like hard science mutant stuff. We're just going to dive into these powers and make a planet. And I thought that was really fun. And then it went haywire. But for a while, I was really into it.
Fair enough.
It was fun to see them sort of come together and slowly build a planet. Storm created the atmosphere and all this stuff.
I don't know if that falls within the purview of her powers, but it's comic books. So
well, she created the weather in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because the molten iron core will help create the atmosphere. Look, I'm not Dr. Reinhaupt. I don't know how accurate this was, but it was fun to read, so that's all that matters.
Listen, he can't know about everything. He can act like he knows about everything.
Maybe he does. And that's what makes him dangerous.
Yeah, no, also it makes us resent him.
So there's
let's never forget the resentment, Connor. That's key.
He's also way younger than we are, so that's the base of the resentment. 1, 2, there's 4 more issues. Nope, 5 more issues of the Met Gala or the Mutant Gala. Hellfire Gala. One of those galas.
Speaking of things with a lot of issues left, let's go to Star Wars Corner really quickly. We're going to talk about Star Wars number 14. I've given you the wrong number. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 20 or so issues of this left through October.
This is the War of the Bounty Hunters.
Any Star Wars book I talk about is going to be War of the Bounty Hunters.
From now until eternity.
Yeah, until
the sun burns out.
Yeah. And I will never care for you. My favorite Willie Nelson song. War of the Bounty Hunters continuing. This is the regular Star Wars book. And for some reason, I was like, yeah, I'll read it. Because there are several of them I don't. And I actually really enjoyed this issue. Whereas the other issues have been all of these lower tier characters, bounty hunters, and other people that they've made up or hunting to find a Han Solo and Carbonite and chase it around. And basically all this is, as we talked about it, is, what happens in between the time that Boba Fett leaves Bespin and they show up at Jabba's palace.
So in between that time, there's an entire war with the bounty hunters who are after Han Solo. Is that what you're saying?
Well, Boba Fett loses him.
Oh, Jesus.
Then he starts to melt, and then they fix that, but then one of the other crime syndicates has him. And as we entered this story, we were with the Alliance. They were on the Millennium Falcon with Luke is there, and Leia, and then Lobot and Lando are with them, with Chewie and C-3PO. Because there had been a story where they had to get a robot. Doesn't matter. And they find out that I think it's the Black Sun, one of the criminal things
that sounds right. Black Sun sounds right.
As putting Han Solo's carbonite frozen body up for auction, and all the criminals are going somewhere to do it. And, they need Lando to help them, but nobody trusts Lando for good reason. But they're going to go try to get him. And this worked. This part of it worked because there is a story in the middle there that could be told and deserves telling. I don't know that we're, if you don't think about it, I don't think about it as canon, but I say, well, what if this happened? And I'm okay with that.
Right.
And I think, the places that Leia is here are interesting and how Luke interacts with them. And one of the interesting parts is that, Lando Calrissian has not gone full good here. He's still very self-interested. They're like, we're going to do this. And he's like, well, yeah, we're going to make a little money on the way, though. And you're like, oh, he is a scoundrel. And that's kind of fun. And it was well drawn.
Yep.
I really like Millennium Falcon space battle stuff. It was fun. I'm not reading every issue of this. And I will
that's what I was going to ask you. How much of it are you reading?
I skipped the series that I don't normally read. So I have been reading the main book, Star Wars, and I have been reading Darth Vader. Other than that, I don't really read any of it. But if for some reason along the way I look at one of the issues and it has something interesting about it, I might pick it up. Like if somebody great is doing Boosh #1, sure, let's see what happens. IG-88 #1 is the last issue slated here in October.
You'll read that one.
Probably. It's very likely, unless it's like Chuck Austin writing it.
So those are the books we wanted to talk about. But at patreon.com/iFanboy, you can vote to add a book to the rundown. And every patron can vote to do so. And this week's winner, it was a horse race between this book and Supergirl. And the winner was Static, Season 1, #1, from Vita Ayala. There's, again, and
twice.
Art by Criss Cross. Although the finishes and the colors are Nicholas Draper Ivy, and the letters are by Andworld Design. And this is the first issue from the Milestone Returns line of books. They had a Milestone 0 issue a couple of weeks ago that sort of set up all the books.
I had not realized that John Paul Leon drew the original one.
Yes. That's where he first showed up in the Milestone.
Extra sad for me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's awful.
And so I'm very curious because I did read that 0 issue, which set this whole book up. And it seemed like a lot of important things happened in that 0 issue related to this one.
I can see that.
So I'm very curious what Josh thought, having not read that 0 issue. I've never read a Static comic. I didn't read the Milestone books when I was a kid. maybe one or two.
I wasn't reading when they came out.
It was the 90s.
I got out the first time, right before, the only time. I got out right before like the Image boom. Mm-hmm. So like basically I stopped reading comics around the time that all that X-Men stuff, the guys who became Image, was starting to become a thing. It was right after McFarlane left Spider-Man. I would say I was around another 6 months. And so everything that happened after that.
Milestone Books premiered in 93. That was, the middle of high school.
I was 8th grade when I stopped reading, I think. Maybe
it was not a time where I was really branching out into books. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be till like college where I'd, move into Sin City and other things. If this had come out, 5 years later, different story perhaps. But at 93, I wasn't really looking to branch out. But, Milestone was a huge deal. It had the number of people and names that came out of Milestone. It was Dwayne McDuffie, Dennis Cowan, M.D. Bright. They all started it. But, like you said, John Paul Leon and Sean Martinborough and Tommy Lee Edwards, who we just talked about earlier, J.H. Williams III, Humberto Ramos, Jamal Igle. All those guys, came out of Milestone. Anyway, it was not on my radar in 93, so I'd never read a Static book before. Although I guess I read that one issue when they did Static for the New 52, so I read that one issue. So, Josh, you tell me what you thought, because again, I read the Prelude bit.
I was kind of confused at the beginning because it felt like they just threw us in. Mm-hmm. I think I figured it out, but I had to do a lot of going back and forth.
Yes.
And I did think it was weird. I was like, why aren't you showing me all this stuff that you're talking about that happened? But I wasn't lost in the sense that when I figured out, I get it. Like, you got in a fight with this person. They were at some event. Something happened. Everybody got powers, not unlike what happened in the Inhumans book. Mm-hmm. And then he got in a fight with somebody, and then he had powers, and he zapped the shit out of him. And then in this, that guy comes back to his house, and he's all flamey, and he, gets in a fight with him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically it. I think that it could have done a better job being clear about those things. I think this book time jumped too much for its own good. I don't know that there was any value to that. I think lots of books are doing that.
I think that the decision to do the Prelude was a strange one. I get the reason to do it in general, to sort of reintroduce people to the characters, is a good one. But then to make it so important to this particular issue was strange, because a lot of people aren't going to have read that Prelude issue.
Make number one a number one issue.
Yeah.
The Zero issue, the Prelude issue, is usually supposed to be the extra, the thing that happens before the thing. But it seems to me in this that this was the thing.
Yeah.
And that is asking a lot. Don't call it a number one issue if you need to read something before it.
Yeah.
But that's editing. Yeah. That's, scheduling and publishing and whatever. I got there.
It was a Black Lives Matter protest, and the cops gassed them with this experimental gas from this company. Turns out the gas gave a bunch of people powers, including Static and his bully, Francis. I don't know, Francis. Why don't you make me? So
Francis chews black gum. It comes out of his mouth as he laughs.
God, I want to watch that so bad. Then you get sort of, your sort of standard high school stuff. He's got a crush on a girl, and, he's got powers. He's struggling with that. He's struggling with having a bully who's like becoming his supervillain, and his family's involved, and his dad wants to basically lean into it and learn like self-defense, and his mom doesn't like it. It was all fine. There was one panel, page 11 on your digital reader, where, what is Static's real name? I'm just going to keep calling him Static. His hand is gigantic. He's giving a peace sign as he walks away, and his hand is twice as big as it should be.
Maybe he has big hands.
No, if he touched his face, he could wrap his fingers into the top of his head. Mm-hmm. Your hand is as big as your face is, like from your chin.
Maybe some perspective, some foreshortening.
No, it's just bad drawing, but that's okay.
Did Chris Cross's art used to look like this?
No.
Or is it's produced very differently, right? I haven't seen him in a while. I haven't thought of his name in a bit, but
no. And also, it's finishes by Nicholas Draper Ivey as well as colors.
I liked the art. It's a little overprocessed at times, but that's just the style. I think that he did a good job of making the people look like real people. They made the teenagers dress like they dress.
They look like teenagers, not just little adults.
Yeah. So I liked that bit. I could tell who everybody was. People looked different enough from one another. Mm-hmm. Which is sometimes hard to do, but there's a lot of good work with hair and expressions, and there's all sorts of different types of people. So that works. I thought it was okay. I think that it didn't speak to me all that much, but I also don't think that I am the audience.
Again, like never really read the comic, never watched the cartoon. Static is not someone I have any kind of emotional resonance for. So then I've got to get it out of the book, and the book was fine. I didn't dislike it. I didn't love it.
Yeah. I think that there's a thing that happens that if they're trying to write in the language of people who are much younger than us, we are going to start to have a real hard time to understand it at a certain point. No, I'm not even. It's just the
crisscross is layouts. It says in the back, because in the beginning it says art by crisscross, but it's layouts. So he just read the layouts. It doesn't really look like crisscross, to be honest.
I don't know what it is that stands out about this other than it's kind of a Spider-Man story.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's bringing anything else to the table yet. It might. I think it's well done. I think I've read other Vita Ayala books and I did not like them. I thought this was fairly competent. Mm-hmm. I think the characters were defined. I didn't love it, though.
It was fine. That's my reaction at the end of reading. That was fine.
Yeah.
I was reading it anyway with the Patron Pick because I was curious just to see. Because, again, having read the Prelude, I was I'll check out all the number ones just because I never read them in the first place. And,
I have the feeling that Static was very groundbreaking and very important to a lot of people when it came out. Mm-hmm. And I say a lot of people because I was not reading then.
At this point, it's almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, and so seeing that representation was really important, and it was speaking in a voice that hadn't been. But we've seen a lot of that since then, and so making this stand out in a way that is bringing something different than what a lot of other books are doing.
I don't know. I'm struggling with whether or not I want to read a second issue. I guess we'll get to the ratings part now. Ratings out of 5 stars. I think I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5, and I'm unsure. Also, Static is a YouTuber. I forgot about that part.
And as much as I hate that is, yeah. I mean, that's what they would do. It's like, that's all they care about now.
I know. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I didn't dislike it. Didn't love it. Kind of curious. I think whether or not I read issue 2 will be dependent on the week it comes out and how many other books I have.
3.25 stars. I will probably read the next issue. I think it may need to write itself and figure out what it is that it wants to say that is interesting, other than just trying to make a thing happen that already happened that was hugely influential and important. Mm-hmm. But they're going to try to keep that. Like, I want it to have heft. I want it to give me something that I don't see in other books right now. And, there's a lot of diversity, inclusiveness, and a lot of these issues are being discussed in a lot of comics. So what is this one going to do to make it stand out? That's what and it might. It's a hard job. That's a tough call, but they're invested. They're into it. I want to hear what it is they have to say. So we'll see if they get there. I'll give it another one.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. That's where you can go add a book to the rundown. I'm going to real quickly go through this because we're running long. That's how people support the show mainly. They unlock the shows for you to listen to, the Talk Explodes, the Book Explodes, the Media Explodes, the YouTube content. They do all that. We do appreciate their support, and we hope they get some value out of that support in terms of the communities they get and the hangouts they get to go to. And we thank everyone who's a patron. iFanboy.threadless.com is our t-shirt store. iFanboy.com/support is our PayPal tip jar, and iFanboy.com/Amazon is where you can buy some books that we talk about and do other things. And we do appreciate everybody who supports the show, including those patrons who give it the $5 or higher level, because those people get their superpower live on the show, whether or not we prepare for it.
Would you like to switch while I am prepared for it?
Seth Johnson is our first patron we're going to thank, and Seth Johnson can zap any animal with his power. And you know how, like, a pony is like, what would you say? Is it a quarter-size horse?
I think a quarter is a bit low. I would say
half-size horse? Two-thirds horse?
Two-thirds, yeah.
He can zap any animal and turn it into two-thirds size of what it is.
I tell you, with a dog on a car trip, that could be useful.
Pony eyes any animal.
I bet there's a listener out there that knows the real.
Yeah. I mean,
he's like, well, a donkey's more like a 3/4 thing, and ponies, I want to go say 3/5.
Well, whatever it is, that's what he does to any animal. So if your animal's already small, he just makes it even smaller.
All right.
Zap.
It helps with circus transport costs, if nothing else.
Or anything, really.
Khalid Mallassi is the authenticator.
Ooh.
Can tell you if anything is real or fake. Is this document official? Is this poster officially of this era?
Are you in my head? Because I'm right now reading a book about a master forger. And so I've been thinking about that all the time now.
Well, you might have noticed I sent you an audiobook
Yes.
by James Swanson, who wrote one of my favorite books, Manhunt, The 12-Day Chase for Lincoln's Killer. And this is sort of a little autobio and a little background on that. And after he got out of college with a history degree and then law school or whatever, he went to work for the greatest, like the most well-known authenticator of sort of like historical artifacts. And the guy was like, no, come work for me. You'll learn a lot. And so like, when he was looking for original wanted posters from there, like he could find them and figure if they were. But, there's that. There's fake shoes. There's all sorts of things.
Oh, everything's counterfeit. I'm just saying, I'm literally reading a book about a master forger right now, so I'm constantly looking at things going, that's probably fake.
I would like to know if my olive oil is real. And
well,
Khalid could help me with that.
I've read articles about that, and I know certain brands, and I seek those out because I'm like, well, at least I've read those are real.
Yeah.
Not peanut oil or whatever it is.
Yeah, apparently the mafia in Italy is just flooding us with fake olive oil.
Yep.
Because we are savages.
60 minutes did a whole story about it. Yeah.
Yeah, the authenticator.
James Decker. I had a related power, but I'm not going to do that now.
Sorry. You can. No one's going to hold that against you.
Okay, well, then Khalid and James we might have a superhero, supervillain thing going on here because James can forge any signature.
What?
Perfectly.
Can we talk about how the signature is the worst authentication in the history? Like, what does it mean?
Even signatures that we've never seen, that we don't know what they look like.
Do you know that you can buy
perfectly
on eBay? And this would be
James is the villain and Khalid's the hero in this scenario.
Right. So this would be their thing. You can buy on eBay. They have taken documents supposedly that Lincoln wrote, and they just cut letters or words out of them, and you can buy one of those.
First of all, I don't believe
can't
those
imagine
are real.
Most of those aren't fake.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you got Khalid calling those out. Like, don't get that one.
Well, James can only do the signature. He can't do the writing.
Oh,
only the sign. Only the signature.
Think about what a Lincoln signature would go for.
Exactly, a lot. We inadvertently set up our first hero, not our first probably, but a hero villain scenario.
I like that. Yeah, a nemesis situation. Casey Lemke can be camouflaged or disguised like surrounding objects as long as they stay still.
Like a chameleon.
Yeah, they just
lizard
stop moving, and all of a sudden, like if there's a bunch of cacti,
sure,
just another cactus.
Wait, is it anytime they stop moving, or they have to activate it?
They have to activate it, but they also have to stop moving. So, like, if you're disguised as like a vase, and you sneeze,
or you think like, there's just a brick wall behind you, and you hear a sneeze, and suddenly Casey's standing there.
Yes.
Like what? Yeah.
But I, in my mind, I'm seeing it as there has to be like a group of objects.
Sure.
Trees, things like that.
What if the objects are moving?
No.
I see. Stationary.
No, stationary object has to stop moving.
All right.
And there's no sound. Just in case you were curious if there was a bloop or something, there's not. It just happens. Instant. Yep.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. That's where you can go support the show, give the $5 heart level, get your own power live in the show. Thanks to Seth, Khalid, James, and Casey. Let's do an email.
Well, we're doing an email, huh?
Let's not do an email. I'm looking at the time. We're already long. We'll save this email. This is a good email. We'll save it for another show.
Awesome.
Contact@ifanboy.com is where you can write us in. And for this show, or for the Media Explode show, if it's for the Media Explode show, please put in the title of the email or the subject line. And we thank you. I don't know why we went long. I don't know what happened.
Got into it.
I blame myself. Let's plug some upcoming shows and get out of here.
So there in the feed, if you go back in the feed, you can find a Talksplode that I did with writer-creator Tom Sholey, largely about his book, Jack Kirby, Epic Life, The King of Comics, which he wrote and drew, and we did a Booksplode on it. You can check that out, which is fantastic. There is a Booksplode that we just released this week. I would say anticipated, long anticipated.
Yeah, sure.
Connor and I read and talked about Injustice, Gods Among Us Year 1, the complete collection by Tom Taylor and a coterie of artists that we really didn't have a chance to get into. There were so
small army of artists.
Yeah, this sort of Elseworldy type story about Superman becoming dictator of Earth and
a division
Batman.
Of artists.
Yeah. Company. Battalion.
Yeah.
I've been watching Band of Brothers again.
Yeah.
Connor and I talked about the book. Good discussion, I thought.
Yep.
So that's there. Other things are coming soon.
Yes, there's a lot of shows coming, actually. This week, you should get our Media Explode for June. Don't know what we're talking about. It's 24 hours before recording time, and we haven't figured that out yet. I'm going to do that later. today. And then after that, maybe a week later, you can get Batman The Long Halloween Part 1, which is the next animated original movie from DC. The Animated Brain Trust will get together. Also need to talk to them about getting together, so we haven't done that yet. And then later in the month, at some point, you'll get a Talksplode for July, as we move into July. So in July, you'll get a Talksplode from some unknown subject matter. And then in August, you'll have our next Booksplode, which is True Believer, The Rise and Fall of Stan Lee by Abraham Reisman. It's our first prose Booksplode. So this gives you about a month and a half to read a prose book.
And don't worry, we're not going to make a habit of that.
No, and it's a fast read, and it probably won't be in the beginning of the month. But anyway, the shows are evergreen. You can just wait and listen to it later.
Yeah.
So those are the shows coming up. Mediasplode, Animated Brain Trust Show, Talksplode, Booksplode. Those are all coming up in the next 2 months.
Get over to iFanboy.com. You can find all of our shows. Those things that we were just talking about, there are hundreds of them there. And many of them are even worth listening to. And all sorts of writing that had been done over the years by our talented writing, sometimes for free, sometimes paid. It was a wild time back then. You can like Facebook.com/iFanboy or follow @iFanboy on Twitter or @iFanboy Comics on Instagram. We tried to get iFanboy on Instagram, but can't if you know someone. You can find us individually @CLSkillPatrick and @JA Flanagan over on Instagram. That's the only place that we are left on social media. And you can subscribe to our YouTube page by going to youtube.com/iFanboy. So what is going to happen is you're going to hit Command L. You're going to type that into the field, and then I believe you need to smash some sort of button, as I understand.
I don't even know where the button is.
One of the things, it's a like button. It's under there. You got to smash the like. Here's the thing. I don't think we open any shows with, hey, guys. But so they might kick us off YouTube if they figure that out. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think we did either.
We are uploading old video shows that we did long ago, but many, again, still relevant, maybe even worth watching.
The full-length shows are from 2009 at this point.
Okay.
And the minis are still from 2008, because all the minis are 2008, but the full-length 2009.
So the mini this week is the book of the month, Alan Moore's Complete Wildcats. That's me.
Yes, it is.
We talked about autobiographical comics, still a favorite. Is it a genre? Sure. And an Astro City show. Welcome to Astro City, a much-beloved series.
That was our Gush Fest.
Yeah, it's totally Gush Fest. And it has been every time we've ever talked about it. So I'm guessing that's still going to be the same. Those comics, by the way, absolutely still worth reading.
Oh, yeah. Timeless.
Timeless.
If you like the show, please consider leaving a review or a star rating on Apple Podcasts or any aggregator you use to listen to your podcast, wherever you're getting your podcast. That's how the show gets help. Help people find the show. The algorithm takes all that stuff into consideration. We do appreciate that.
Connor, do you even know what an algorithm is?
I vaguely understand it. All podcasts you listen to, not just this one, it helps them if you leave a review or a star rating, and they would appreciate that as well. Even better than that is word of mouth. Tell your friends, your mom, your kids. Start them young. When you're singing them to sleep, just start getting the message into their heads.
I'd say that when you put I'd say not until 6 months, but after 6 months, I would just play a constant stream of WTF in their bedrooms at night. And then by the time they're like 5, they're like, Mark has really matured.
So just subliminally get them in there, and we appreciate everyone who does that. And thank you. And that's it for this week's show.
Hey, guys. Every YouTuber starts every single thing with, hey, guys.
I know.
And then we have to listen in the background to the YouTubers that my kids are listening to. Every once in a while, someone will say something horrible and we'll go, shut it off. Shut it off.
Is it still Minecraft YouTube, or has it been moved on to new YouTube?
I don't even know anymore. Sometimes the different gamers, one of them is obsessed with watching this girl.
Oh, boy.
At one point, we just heard somebody say, like, oh, that's so gay. And we're like, nope, you don't get to watch that one anymore. Just... And the kid's like, why? And it's like, nope, they're assholes. That's why. Anyway.
Welcome to this extra special glimpse into Josh's life. I'm Connor.
I'm Josh.